This is my introduction. Black cake. It's my own special recipe. Forgive me if I'm frightened. I never see strangers and hardly know what I say. My sister Lavinia, she's younger than I. She says I tend to wander back and forth in time. So you must bear with me. I was born December 10th, 1830, which makes me 53. Welcome to Amherst. My name is Emily Elizabeth Dickinson. Elizabeth is for my Aunt Elizabeth Currier. She's Father's sister. Oh, how the trees stand up straight when they hear Aunt Libby's little boots come thumping into Amherst. She's the only male relative on the female side. Dear Aunt Libby. But I don't use my middle name anymore since I became a poet. Mr. Higginson, the literary critic, doesn't think my poems are... No matter. I've had 7 poems published. Anonymously, to be sure. So you see why I prefer to introduce myself to you as a poet. Here in Amherst, I'm known as Squire Edward Dickinson's half-cracked daughter. Well, I am. The neighbors can't figure me out. I don't cross my father's ground to any house or town. I haven't left the house for years. The soul selects her own society, then shuts the door. Why should I socialize with village gossips? Oh, there goes one of them now. Henrietta Sweetser. Everyone knows Henny. She'd even intimidate the Antichrist. Oh, look at her. She's strolling by the house trying to catch a glimpse of me. Woo-hoo! Would you like that? So I give them something to talk about. I dress in white all year round, even in winter. Bridal white, Henny calls it. Dear, dear, she dresses in bridal white. She does, every day of the blessed year, year in, year out. Disappointed in love is a girl, so I hear. Poor creature, all so very sad. And her sister Lavinia, a spinster too. Oh, didn't you know? Oh, yes. Stayed unmarried just to be at home and take care of Miss Emily. 2 old maids in that big house. What a lonely life to shut yourself away from good people like us. Indeed. But you should see them come to the door bearing gifts and craning their necks trying to see over Vinny's shoulder, but I'm too fast for them. I've already run upstairs 2 steps at a time, and I hide there until they leave. You can imagine what to make of that. Oh, one old lady came to the door the other day to get a peek inside. I surprised her by answering the door myself. She stammered something about, I'm looking for a house to buy. To spare the expense of moving, I directed her to the cemetery. Oh, the cake. I do all the baking here at Homestead. I even banged the spice for this cake. My father always raved about my baking. He would eat no cake or bread but mine. It's lovely. No, it's easy to make. The recipe? Oh, of course. And it's really very simple, and I'll go slowly. Now, it's black cake, of course. 2 pounds of flour, 2 pounds of sugar, 2 pounds of butter, 19 eggs, 5 pounds of raisins, 1.5 pounds of currants, 1.5 pounds of citron, 1/2 pint of brandy. Now, I never use Father's Best. 1/2 pint of molasses, 2 nutmegs, 5 teaspoons of cloves, mace, and cinnamon, and, 2 teaspoons of soda and 1 good pinch of salt. Now, did I go too fast? Thank you. Now, you just beat the butter and sugar together, add the 19 eggs one at a time. Well, now, this is very important. Without beating, and then you beat the mixture again, adding the brandy alternately with the soda, flour, salt, and spices that you sifted together. Then the molasses. Now take your 5 pounds of raisins and 3 pounds of currants and citron and gently sprinkle in all 8 pounds. Slowly now as you stir. Then you bake for 3 hours. If you use cake pans, but if you use a milk pan, as I do, then you'd better leave it in the oven 6 or 7 hours. Everybody loves it. I hope you will too. Oh, thank you for asking. Sometimes I bake one for a neighbor, and I enclose a short note that is usually so obscure no one can understand it. I hear that my little notes are becoming collector's items in the village. People compare them to see who has the strangest one. Excuse me? We must be careful what we say. No bird can resume its egg. That'll keep them guessing. Oh, that reminds me, I must send a note to Mrs. Hills. She's just been admitted to the Maplewood Infirmary. Surgeons must be very careful when they take the knife. Underneath their fine incisions stirs the culprit, life. That'll cheer her up. I'm told that one woman in Amherst is imitating me now. It's probably Clarissa Cartwright. Just what Amherst needs, another eccentric. Oh, I do have fun with them. My menagerie. I guess people in small towns must have their local characters, and for Amherst, that's what I am. But do you know something? I enjoy the game. I've never said this to anyone before, but I'll tell you, I do it on purpose. The white dress, the seclusion, it's all deliberate. But my brother, Austin, he knows. He says, Emily, stop your posing. Austin knows me through and through as no one else does. Father and mother never understood me. And Vinny, well, Vinny doesn't really know me either. Austin and I are unlike most everyone, and are therefore more dependent on each other for delight. But I do think sometimes the stories about me distress him. In a way, the stories are true. Oh, I believe in truth, but I think it can be slanted just a little. Do you know what I'm saying? Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. as lightning to the children, eased with explanation kind. The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. Words. Words are my life. I look at words as if they were entities, sacred beings. They're words to which I lift my hat when I see them sitting on a page. Sometimes I write one, circumference, and I look at its outlines until it starts to glow, brighter than any sapphire. I hesitate which word to take when I write a poem. A poet can choose but a few words, and they have to be the chiefest words, the best words. A word is dead when it is said, some say. I say it just begins to live that day. If I read, well, Keats or Shelley, Shakespeare, Mrs. Browning, Emily Bronte, oh, what an afternoon for heaven when Bronte entered there. And they make my whole body so cold, no fire can ever warm me. I know that is poetry. Have you ever felt that way? If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry. These are the only ways I know it. Is there any other? My friend Helen Jackson, oh, you love her, but she's moved to Colorado. Helen is a fine scholar of words and a well-known writer. She has the facts, but not the phosphorescence. Ooh, phosphorescence. Can you spell it? To find that phosphorescence, that light within, that's the genius behind poetry. We have an Irish girl who's been with us for a long time, and I was here yesterday at tea, and she asked me how to spell genius. Why do you ask, Maggie? Oh, writing to your brother, I see. And whom are you describing? Me. Oh, Maggie. Well, I guess I'd better spell it for you. Genius. Genius. Oh, don't ask me that, Maggie. I don't know what it means. No one knows that, Maggie. Wait a moment, Maggie. Let's see what Mr. Webster says. Genius. He doesn't know either, Maggie. Thank you, dear. Do you know that every one of you is to me a poem? You and you, each one a rare creation. I discovered that secret a long time ago about the souls of people. And I thought that being a poem oneself precluded the writing of poems. But I saw my mistake. The poet lights the lamp and then goes out himself. But the light goes on and on. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. People find it hard to believe that I had a normal childhood. Well, they visualize instead a miniature version of me as I am now, a paint-sized little Emily dressed all in white, lisping riddles and aphorisms in baby talk, and of course hiding from the family. Well, I guess I'm to blame for that false impression. Actually, at 15, I was a very typical Amherst girl. I went to dances. I giggled my way through classes, quilting bees, and scores of parties. I was trying very hard to believe that I was a ravishing beauty. I was infatuated with one dashing young man after another. Unfortunately, they didn't know it, or if they did, they'd up smarter than I gave them credit for. Oh, and I sent valentines. Austin, how many valentines has my handsome brother received? 11. I haven't received any. Oh, Benny's received some beautiful ones, but I've almost lost hope. Austin, come in here. Austin, do you think you could tell Thomas that I'm simply pining away for a valentine? Well, why can't you? Well, there you stand with 11 valentines. 11! And your highly accomplished and gifted sister has been entirely overlooked. Oh, why can't you please? Austin, come back. What are brothers for? Oh, Abaya, my dearest girlfriend, will you be my valentine? I'd love to send you a bouquet, and you could press it and write under it, "The last flowers of summer." Wouldn't it be poetical? And you know, that's what young ladies aim to be nowadays, poetical. I think I am growing handsome, very fast indeed. I expect I shall be the Belle of Amherst when I reach my 17th year. I don't doubt that I shall have perfect crowds of admirers at that age. And then at dances, how I shall delight to make them await my bidding and witness their suspense while I make my final decision. Why, James Francis Billings! Excuse me, Mother. Ooh, what handsome whiskers! How have you been? Well, isn't this a wonderful party? Oh, thank you. It's a Goatee's latest book pattern. Oh, yes, delicious refreshments. Did you sample the rhubarb cupcakes? I baked them myself. Oh, you don't like rhubarb? Well, a lot of people don't like rhubarb. Oh my, yes, I adore cooking. I simply can't get enough of cooking. My mother says that whom I marry will be my sister? Oh. Lavinia as well? Yes, I'll tell her. Mr. Billings. Mr. Billings? How do you like going to school at Ipswich Cemetery? A seminary? Oh. It seems that Mr. Billings found the pretty girl in yellow. Father's house and my garden. This is my world, and for my companions I have the hills and the sundown and my dog Carlo, large as myself, that my father bought me. They're better than beings because they know but don't tell. You see, I've never had to go anywhere to find my paradise. I found it all right here. The only world I wanted, here in Amherst, Massachusetts. Massachusetts. Now there's a word to lift your hat to. Paradise. Paradise is no journey because it is within. But for that very cause, it's the most arduous of journeys. I travel the road into my soul all the time. I dwell in possibility. A fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors. Of chambers, as the cedars impregnable of eye, and for an everlasting roof the gables of the sky. Of visitors, the fairest. For occupation, this, the spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise. Nature is the highest art, don't you think? I mean, just to see the summer sky is poetry. Oh, summer. Our orchard is full of blue jays. To see them follow the hose for a drop of water is a touching sight. They won't take it if I hand it to them. They run and shriek as if they were being assassinated. But oh, to steal it, that is bliss. I've never seen such heat. The sun beat down so today I think everything will get ripe so it can be autumn tomorrow. Oh, I loved the beginning of school each year. My girlfriends that I had such times together. Bayou Root, Sarah Tracy, Abby Wood, Emmeline Kellogg, Emily Fowler. There were so many Emilys at the academy our teachers couldn't keep us straight. Social graces with Miss Woodbridge. Knees straight, girls. Shoulders back. 1 and 2 and 3 and shoulders back, girls. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and very good, Miss Dickinson. Thank you, Miss Woodbridge. I loved the academy. I liked Miss Woodbridge, too. During my last semester at the academy, I was 16, we girls formed a Shakespeare Society. It was my idea. We invited the boys to join, and that was my idea, too. At our first meeting, we were to read The Tempest. Good afternoon, Tootle Crawl. You want us to take all our copies and cross out the questionable passages? What do you mean questionable, Tootle Crawl? Decency. Well, what good is crossing them out going to do? I've already read them, and so is Abby. And Jenny, haven't you girls? Anyhow, how do we dare edit Shakespeare? Well, I disagree. In Hamlet, it says there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Besides, I don't want marks in my book. Well, you boys can do as you like, but we girls don't think there is anything wicked in Shakespeare, and if there is, we don't want to know about it. We shall read everything, Tootle Crawl, naughty words and all. Come on, girls. Monster. I do smell horse piss. Oh! At which my nose is in indignation. Come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall, you murthing ministers. How was that, Tootle Crawl? Well, I could never tell time by the clock till I was 15. Father thought he had taught me, but I didn't understand, and I was afraid to say I didn't, and afraid to ask anyone else lest he should know. Can you imagine never knowing what time it was? Thank goodness for twilight. Father never kissed us goodnight in his life. Oh, I know he loved us, but he was so austere. Why, he hardly ever smiled. I remember the day we went to the photographer to have his picture taken. Well, to have this picture taken. That poor photographer, trying to be cordial and put Father at ease, he said, Squire Dickinson, could you smile a little, please? And Father said, I am smiling. You see, he looks like a bear. He didn't even approve of Santa Claus and all such prowling gentlemen. Father was the only one in the house to say damn. Well, someone in every family ought to say damn, of course. And when he said it, he meant it. Why, if his newspaper was ever misplaced, damn! It was absolutely forbidden, except for Father. But Father forbade many things. When my sister Venny, oh, this is Ven. Isn't she pretty? When Ven was a girl, she enjoyed showing off her pretty white shoulders by wearing her summer frocks quite low. Well, about here. And then she'd languish about the house, looking dreamy-eyed and primping in front of the mirror and running to the window every time a boy passed. Hello, Benjamin! Now, Father could take just so much of this, and then he'd bark at her. Lavinia, don't be so affected. Put on a shawl. Poor Ven would flounce dramatically out of the room, stomp up the steps to her room, and slam the door, bang. She pouted the rest of the day. Trouble was, she was even prettier when she pouted. Oh, but Father was so proper, very demanding, inflexible. That's why any show of leniency or understanding on his part would disarm us completely. I remember when Father discovered I was writing till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, Father, I thought you were asleep. No, I didn't notice the time. 2 o'clock, is it that late? Well, it's the only time the house is quiet, Father, except for Benny. She snores like a poker and shovel and pair of tongs. Oh, yes, Father. Yes, I know you have a rule about early rising, but I haven't missed one morning, have I? Tired, I do. Well, I was writing. Yes, Father. Good night. Just a poem, Father. Now? Out loud? To make a prairie, Father. To make a prairie, it takes a clover and 1 bee and reverie. The reverie alone will do if bees are few. Another one? Yes, Father, I do. Excuse me, I keep my finished ones in here. Oh, I'll tell you how the sun rose. A ribbon at a time, the steeples swam in amethyst, the news like squirrels ran. The hills untied their bonnets, the bobolinks begun. Then I said softly to myself, That must have been the sun. But how he set, I know not. There seemed a purple stile that little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side, a dominie in gray put gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. Cancel the rule? For me? Oh, then I can sleep late in the morning. Oh, thank you for... You see what I mean? I'm sure Father didn't realize how much I wanted to be published. In fact, I don't remember Father ever reading my poems. I mean, he showed so little interest in anything but his law practice and the duties of being college treasurer. Like the night of Jenny Lind, the Swedish nightingale, Father took us to the concert. The bouquets fell in showers, and she sang and sang and sang. Father sat all evening looking mad. Well, her trills were a bit curious. We didn't care a fig for the Swedish nightingale. We'd rather have heard a Yankee whippoorwill. But I suspect what was on Father's mind was the $4,000 she was taking out of town. My father. The first time we parted, 1847, I was 16. I graduated from Amherst Academy and entered Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, which was run by a dragon. Well, I wanted to tell you about her. Mary Lyon ran the school. I liked Miss Lyon, even though she laid down strict rules for girls, and her main concern was for our spiritual health. We were classified in 3 categories. We were either professed Christians, that was Jane Gridley's group, or we were with hope, and that was Olivia Coleman's group, or we were without hope, and, well, naturally, I was in charge of that group. Well, after Miss Lyon made a vigorous appeal for converts, the without hopes were reduced considerably. Oh, I'll never forget it. One evening, we impenitent girls were invited by Miss Lyon to a meeting in Room B, the dungeon. We were told to bring the Bible. Now, I told Olivia that this would happen, that Miss Lyon would ask everyone who desired to be employed in service to Christ to rise at the meeting and declare herself. Courage, Emily. Good evening, Miss Lyon. I'm sorry, Miss Lyon, but I can't rise. Well, I know I'm the only one left without hope, but the Spirit hasn't moved me yet. Yes, ma'am, I desire to be good. Yes, I do want to please my parents, but I'm not yet persuaded to be a Christian. Oh, I appreciate your offer of mercy, ma'am, and I know the world is sinful and wicked, but the path of duty doesn't look, well, it doesn't look very attractive to me. But I have read the Bible, Miss Lyon, Old and New Testaments. Well, I thought at first it was an arid book, but then I found it wise and a bit merry. Mary, yes, ma'am. Merry. Oh, she did look like a dragon. But I mustn't laugh at Miss Lyon, for I believe she had a pure heart, and that is the important thing, isn't it? I did return to Holyoke the following year. You might say I wore out my welcome with Miss Lyon. And Father wanted me home besides. He said it was for my health, but I think Father was lonely. Austin was soon to leave for college, and Father couldn't bear to have the family separated. More than one away at a time was too much for him. All the while Austin was at home, they'd do nothing but fight. But the minute they were separated, they became devoted friends. This is Austin. Isn't he handsome? There was no one living for whom Father had such respect as for my brother Austin. Oh, but no one missed Austin more than I did. Austin, the coach is here. Each time he left, I stood out down the road watching the stagecoach disappear. I'd wait for Austin to turn around. I had to be sure he saw me. It was almost a superstition with me. I thought that if he didn't see me as the stagecoach went behind the hill, that we'd never meet again. So it could be raining or snowing, but there I stood, waiting for his last look through that little window of the coach. Those times seem far off now, a great way. As things we did with children. I wish we were children now. And the nails hung full of coats again, the chairs hung full of hats, the umbrellas all in a row, and I could count the slippers under the kitchen chair. I wish we were always children. How to grow up, I don't know. In this parlor, we always met for morning prayers. I can still hear Father say in a most militant way, "I say unto you," ooh, it always gave me a chill. Why is religion made so grim, so dull? Why should we be made to feel so guilty? Sermons, sermons, sermons. I only heard one sermon that I really liked, and that was when the Reverend Dwight preached on unbelief. Sermons on unbelief always did attract me. Well, it was on a sweltering July Sabbath that I decided to stop attending church altogether. Well, I was old enough to make that decision. I was almost 30. I came home very hot and faded, having witnessed a couple of baptisms, 3 admissions to church, a supper of the Lord, and some other minor transactions, and the sermon wheezed by Reverend Leland. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye lands, and come before his presence with singing. Oh, singing indeed. Oh, poor Reverend Leland. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home, with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplice. I just wear my wings. And instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So, instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along in the name of the bee, the butterfly, and the breeze. Amen. When the family went to church, I was never alone. God was sitting right there, looking into my very soul. How do you spend your evenings? Well, Vinnie and I read the Springfield Republican every night. I read the news aloud while she sews. Vinnie has an odd liking for those stories of accidents where trains meet each other unexpectedly, or gentlemen in factories get their heads cut off. She was disappointed last night that there weren't more accidents. Oh, Vinnie. Oh, here's one you'll love, Vinnie. Train hits local woman on Mill River trestle. Cornelia Snell, 54, Snell, was killed last Wednesday by the Belchertown Express as she struggled vainly to free her foot from a railroad switch. Her foot, Vinnie. Engineer Grover W. Putnam declared, by the time I saw the poor lady and her dog, it was too late. Oh, yes, Vinnie. She leaves her husband, Noah L. Snell, and 8 children. 8 little Snells. Oh, the dog survived. It jumped clear. No, Vinnie. The casket was closed. She was hit by a train. Oh, Vinnie. Oh, her children are planting an evergreen in her memory near the spot. Isn't that sweet, Vinnie? I wonder why she didn't take off her shoe. Oh, I suppose she tried, but trains are so fast these days. Oh, Vinnie, do you think... Then, she's asleep. It's fall in New England. And you know what New England autumns are like. Vinnie says autumn is one long chore. Can you imagine? Oh dear, she's out there now picking apples for cider. Oh, the ladder. Benny? Ben, be careful on that ladder. It's broken. Vinnie's always falling off something. Vinnie wears white cotton stockings even though everyone else is wearing black. She thinks her feet will be poisoned by the dye in the black stockings. It's so weird and so vastly mysterious. Vinnie sleeps by my side. Her care is in some sort motherly. But her astonishment couldn't be greater at some things I say, like Father was. Mother was different. Mother didn't care for thought, consequently she never listened to what I said. We all lived together like friendly and absolute monarchs here at Homestead, each in his own domain. Yet, I was the slightest in the house. I took the smallest room. At night, my little lamp and book, and one geranium, so stationed I could catch the mint that never ceased to fall. And just my basket, let me think. I'm sure that this was all. I never spoke, unless addressed, and then 'twas brief and low. I could not bear to live aloud, the racket shamed me so. And if it had not been so far, and anyone I knew were going, I had often thought how noteless I could die. Oh, why do these problems of the dust terrify me so? I just hope that heaven will be less lonely than New England. Oh, do you read the Atlantic Monthly? Well, in the April issue 1862, an article appeared inviting young writers to submit their work. Charge your style with life, said the author, Thomas Wentworth Higginson. This was what I was waiting for. Sue agreed. Oh, Sue is my sister-in-law. She married Austin. Sue was the only one who understood my need to write. But Sue thought Father would disapprove. We spent days trying to find just the right poems to send. No, Sue, no. He will not disapprove as soon as my poems bring honor to his name. Now look, Sue, let's find one that's a good contrast to these three. No, I'm not going to sign them. Well, isn't that humble of me? Oh, of course. But on a little card, slipped into the poems. Well, he'll find it. He'll look for it. Emily Dickinson. No. E. Dickinson. Mysterious? It is provocative, isn't it? Ought to whet his curiosity, I'd say. And then when he reads my poems, won't he go wild? Oh, Sue, you think we should send more than 4 poems? How about 6 or 10? Well, read that one again, Sue. No, not that one. Not that one, Sue. How about, the pedigree of honey does not concern the bee. A clover any time to him is aristocracy. No, not that one. Oh, well, how about the bird? A bird came down the walk he did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in hives and ate the fellow raw. No bird poems, Sue? Oh, well. Oh, how about the train? I like to see it lap the miles and lick the valleys up and stop to feed itself at tanks and then prodigious step around a pile of mountains and supercilious peer in shanties by the sides of roads and then a quarry pair to fit its side and crawl between, complaining all the while in horrid hooting stanza, then chase itself downhill and neigh like Boanerges, then punctual as a star, stop, docile and omnipotent at its own stable door. Too giddy? But I love it. Oh. Wait, I have it. I have it, Sue. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard. And sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it ask a crumb of me. That's the 4th. Oh, Sue. Mr. Thomas Wentworth Higginson, Atlantic Monthly. Washington, and what was that street, Sue? Schools, streets. Boston, Massachusetts. Oh, now, Sue, we must throw away these scraps of paper. No one must know that the famous and mysterious E. Dickinson writes second and third drafts of her letters. Oh, Sue, look how long I've kept you. Austin will be waiting for dinner. Thank you, Sue. And I'll let you know the minute I hear. Mr. Higginson answered my letter, but not in the way I'd hoped. I thanked him for the surgery. It wasn't as painful as I supposed. He did ask to see more poems, and I sent them. I wrote him often, even began calling him my preceptor and myself his scholar. 8 years of correspondence. 8 years of putting my hopes on the shelf. And then, when I was 40, the incredible happened. Thomas Wentworth Higginson was coming to Amherst, face to face at last. Now we can accomplish something. He says, I look forward to meeting with you, and I will come directly from my visit with President Stearns at the college. Oh, he says the 15th. Oh, dear friend, I will be at home and glad. I've been so afraid. It's like being terrified of midnight when I was a child. But now, it's time to smooth the hair and get the dimples ready and wonder we could care for that old faded midnight that frightened but an hour. He's coming to Amherst at last. It seems I'm going to be famous. Oh, Sue, I've got the most glorious news. Wait till you hear he's coming. He's coming, Sue.